was great to see the way our team performed in Vegas. Obviously, I was watching from a distance, but felt like there was good execution and some good learning that took place. And thought the quarterbacks, Sean and Kellen, played well and did nicely.
Seems awfully robotic to me. Welcome back to another edition of Enough Said. My name is Dan Barreiro, joined by, for the second consecutive week, Justin Gaard. No, actually, you've been around here
talking about our
I've been
schedule
here all summer.
For the second consecutive week, Lori Fisher. That's the news. I don't want to bury it. Welcome back. We're delighted that you're here. We're surprised that you're here. But
again, getting old. I'm here almost every Friday.
Don't do the ageist
Whether
jokes
you like
on me,
it
pal.
or
We can check the tape. We can check the
Well,
tape.
check the record. Yeah, I mean, you've been gone most of the summer.
Let me ask you real quickly, when you're not on the show, do you watch the show? No.
Ooh, see, that's a no.
But that's, I brought up, there's no way
I
Kirk
do.
Cousins watched the first preseason game
Okay,
against the Ravens,
well,
right? There's no chance. I wouldn't have.
You mentioned age. Kirk Cousins, 34 years
birthday.
old today. Happy birthday,
Happy
Kirk.
birthday, Kirk.
Happy birthday,
Well,
Kirk.
after getting COVID and not making the trip to Las Vegas last weekend, the Vikings take on San Francisco Saturday night at US Bank Stadium. They've been working out with the 49ers this week. Why don't you take a quick look back at the Raiders game, their loss, and then a look ahead to tomorrow, Dan?
Well, there's a lot to cover, but I want to start actually. I'm going to try to be positive this week for a
All right.
change.
Let's see how long.
Here's what I think we can say we're not, and I think this is all good things that we're not. One, we're not involved in street brawls in joint practices, a la the New England Patriots and the Carolina Panthers, where they've had, I think, 5 players arrested. It got so out of control. We're not celebrating serial vomiting from players
like
that's
Nebraska.
being celebrated at the University of Nebraska by the coaches. I don't think our coaches believe that's a sign that you're making progress. All our players are throwing up all the time. And here's the big one, and this is very important. Our number one quarterback is not prohibited from having soft tissue massages without an independent massage person in the room to monitor what takes place.
A la Deshaun.
Though, a la Deshaun Watson, which we're going to get to later in the show. Those are all good things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what we are, but I know what we're not, and we're not any of those things.
We don't have any distractions. Is that what you're saying? And frankly,
Well, that too.
And I agree with Cousins. First of all, I don't believe that he actually watched the game on what day? Sunday afternoon. Beautiful afternoon here in Minnesota. He's going to watch preseason game number 1. I don't believe it, but he wasn't going to play
in
anyway.
his case, I do believe.
I think he's just saying what he wants to say. But he's right.
He swore this week. You excited? Are you encouraged by that? Do you think it's the new gunslingery, more rugged, less robotic number 8?
No, because we've seen that every once in a while. We saw him push Zimmer. We've heard him talk about angry Kirk. I didn't take a whole lot out of, and although I enjoyed watching it on Fox 9, I thought it was great. Especially enjoyed the Rosen cast. Unbelievable. I think we need more Mark Rosen, and maybe we'll get some more. But there really wasn't a ton to take out of it, except that now everybody loves Kellen Mond, which is we have that going for us. That's a training camp tradition, right?
Yes, it is.
Going all the way back to Gino Torretta. Who else did we have? Kyle Sloter.
Mm-hmm.
You go through Joe Webb. You go through all these guys of the backup quarterback during training camp. Everybody loves them. That's what we have too. So that's kind of a nice little tradition that we
have. Still, I think what we don't have answered is what are we going to do about the center position?
Right.
And we've auditioned several people. Seems like there's several options at right guard.
Yep.
But that's another key question, and that together points to a key issue for this team, obviously, and that has to still be resolved. I don't care how modern the system is, how innovative our play calling might be under the new regime. If you're getting pressure up the middle, any quarterback, but especially number 8, it's a problem. Now, that's what we have to see if they've figured it out. And what I'm very curious also to find out, is this going to be the kind of team that is more willing to check waiver wires
30 seconds.
and grab players who become available that they've eyed
to move around?
Or are we committed to the people we have here, specifically regarding that interior part of the line? Because that is still, everything breaks down no matter how sophisticated and fancy your system is if you cannot protect the quarterback up front on the interior part, and that's still going to be one of the ongoing questions.
Neither you and I were
answered.
at the Niners practices, but it seemed like defense looked pretty good. Our defensive line looked pretty good, but so did San Francisco's. which
even Darisaw,
Yes.
we're all impressed
Yes.
with what people are saying about him, and then he apparently got pancaked a couple
by
times.
Bosa a couple times.
By Bosa a
Yeah.
couple
Enough
times. So
said.
we got to I think slow our roll on him being in the Hall of Fame. Let's see this thing actually come together.
You can watch the 49ers game right here on Fox 9 tomorrow night at 6 o'clock with
Can't
a
wait.
pregame show at 5 p.m.
We'll be there.
Okay, great. The Twins are fighting for first in the AL Central with Cleveland. Ahead of them, White Sox not far behind. Minnesota beat the Kansas City Royals in this series this week. They take on the Texas Rangers here at home this weekend. Justin.
Time to go. I mean, it's time to go. This is the part of August that opens up a little bit, and they took full advantage of a terrible Kansas City team. I think the aggregate score was something like 17-2. Buzzkill of the week is that Tyler Mahle left the game. For a second time now this season, he's dealing with a sore right shoulder. Not ideal, given that you just traded to have him kind of help you through this stretch run. But they're obviously very much in the mix of this bad division. They're still miraculously in the mix for the wild card, which I didn't even realize. They're like a game and a half out of a wild card spot at the moment, too. But this is the time to do it. Yeah, you had the quote-unquote tougher part of the schedule earlier this month. Now it softens a little bit. You've got more difficult games coming, but a lot of them are at home. This is the final 6 weeks or so of the season, right? I mean, it's time to finally make a move and be the team that you think you're supposed to be.
Eventually, this will be a lot of intra-division play, and so to a certain extent, I don't think you can win it in August. You can certainly keep yourself in good spot and try to make a little bit of a move, but ultimately, it's going to be the teams playing amongst each other. The Twins have plenty of games left with the Guardians, and I think the White Sox enough of those as well. Maybe we've got, I was reminded, I forgot this, we got 4 coming up with the Yankees, I think there, right? Is that there or here?
Yes, I believe it's there.
So there's a part of me that says let's just concede those games, get our pitchers rested up and healthy and don't even bother. You mentioned Mahle. It is amazing, once again, the fragility of our staff, particularly our starting rotation. Even going back to Maeda, who's maybe recovering in time to help in the bullpen next month. Mahle now with another shoulder issue. Archer, clearly, they just don't trust him pitching more than 4 innings. And then we got a couple. Who's the big tall pitcher? Wasn't he out for a long time?
Yeah, Bailey
his name. Yeah. We have, and maybe this is all through baseball, but it is challenging to see how fragile our rotation is in terms of putting this thing together, keeping people healthy, keeping them active, no matter how hard we try to only let them pitch 5 innings.
Right.
It still seems like it's an ongoing slog for us to put together a rotation and keep it together. And if Mahle, if it ends up being a kind of thing where, because even though there's not bad results from the testing, still got to prove that he hasn't lost 7 miles per hour on his fastball. And if he can't help them, the guy that we thought was a key acquisition at the deadline, or he's not available that much, then you're kind of back to not having a legitimate rotation for the playoffs if indeed you get there.
And you got to I'm curious to see how Sonny Gray reacts. He got to pitch into the 7th inning a couple of nights ago and gave up a couple of singles. They didn't allow him to do it. But I do kind of like the fact that we had a guy push back. And he's not the only one. There's other guys in the rotation that would like to go deeper in the games. But maybe we spend too much time on it. Maybe we're fighting an uphill battle on it. But I kind of like the fact that the Twins do have a guy that if you let him get himself out of some trouble and let him go deep into games, it would be helpful. Because we've seen, sometimes the bullpen just doesn't have it, even with some of the new additions.
Enough said. The Timberwolves released their schedule, and they'll kick off their regular season at home against Oklahoma City on October 19th. Get your planners out, okay? So I have some dates for you.
I already have these written down.
Okay, well, for those of you who don't, get your planners out. They are playing the Golden State Warriors, defending champion, on November 27th. They have a 6-game homestand from January 27th to February 5th. And single-game tickets go on sale October 1st. They also announced a new play-by-play announcer, Michael Grady. And I'm sorry, Justin, because I believe you were going for that role for your 18th job.
Well, good shot. Good jab.
That's a nice cheap
Dan?
shot.
Applied by Lori.
Very nice cheap shot.
I'm sure Michael's great, but,
Well, we actually generally spend at least 3 days talking about the Vikings schedule when it's released.
Yeah.
Because first of all, it's the NFL, and they're the monster, they're the machine that you can't ignore, and that's been almost turned into an important date on the schedule. NBA schedule release, not so much, at least not here, because it didn't really seem to matter. There was very few reasons to look forward to the season.
Right.
So this is the first year we've actually spent some time with it, and I'm actually disgusted to find out that there's a lot of Timberwolves apologists who are bitter that we don't have more national TV games and we're not being respected because we're not on the big schedule, the national games, the opening weekend,
or Christmas.
And I've said this on the radio. I'll say it now. Just calm yourself down. There's no conspiracy against the Wolves. In fact, the schedule early is very opportunistic. They got a chance to get out and win their first 7 games if they really apply themselves and take this thing seriously. So it'll all come. But more has to happen before the league is going to turn over its entire national schedule and the TNT schedule to the Minnesota Timberwolves. I don't understand why this becomes such a big issue for folks. They want it. I get they want it to happen.
Yeah, we want people to like it.
But it has to happen first before we get there. And we had a nice emerging season last year.
Yep.
We lost immediately in the playoffs, and we have to prove that there's a reason that people should come back to us and think that we're going to take the next step. We're both on record, the Gobert trade. We love. I am very encouraged. I think this team's going to win 50 games this year, but it's got to happen first before, as I said, we lose our minds over how disrespected we're being by the national schedule makers.
I am embarrassed how excited I was about NBA schedule release day. I'm not that embarrassed, but I'm a little embarrassed. But to your point, I don't remember in my lifetime, except maybe when I was 7 and the inaugural season started, 89-90 at the Metrodome, I don't remember being as excited to get a schedule out as I was this year. I think it speaks to what happened last year. I've already seen this too, by the way.
Yeah.
Remember, they've got some new players. 2004 Timberwolves took them a while to get going. They were 8-9 before they took off. Can't happen this year. You mentioned the beginning of the schedule. It's right there to get off to a really quick start. And in the West, which is loaded, you're going to have to if you want to be where you want to be in the end, which is a top 4 seed, maybe a top 5 seed, which is what we all thought they would be when the Gobert deal made.
Nobody's going to give it to you. No one's going to just concede that, they're the up-and-coming team. You're going to have to continue to earn it.
Back to Enough Said. The NFL suspended Cleveland Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson for 11 games. They also fined him $5 million, and he has to undergo treatment. More than 24 women have accused Watson of sexual misconduct during massage therapy sessions. Watson says he stands by his innocence. His suspension starts next week and goes until week 13, we believe, as of right now. Dan?
This is the punishment. We've talked about this in the show. We both thought 6 games was ridiculously light. I thought a year made more sense. I even liked the idea if it was open-ended beyond that. We talked about the likelihood that the former judge who ruled in this case said that may be good in theory, and I don't necessarily disagree with you because what he did was egregious, but she was dealing with a lack of what she said was precedent and what the league had set down.
Yep.
This is closer because I think this effectively, could blow out the team for the entire season. So I think it's closer. There's a lot of cynicism about the fact that his first game back, though, they scheduled it in a way where he's immediately coming back for a game that's going to be made for TV, right?
Yep.
At Houston. I want to read one quote from Watson and the reaction from the Browns because my emphasis is going to be less on him and more on the team. This is what he said. I'm going to continue to stand on my innocence and keep pushing forward. And I've always stood on not disrespecting or sexually assaulted anyone. So the Browns were asked about that, said, well, that doesn't sound like there's much contrition there. He's talking about innocence. And one of the co-owners of the team replied, we respect his opinion.
Right.
I do think in counseling, Deshaun will learn a lot more about himself. This is the pact that the Browns have made. They sit there and try to sort of either defend or to not go after the fact that he's taking really no responsibility for any of this. Why? Because they made the pact.
Yeah.
They're in it. And so a lot of my issue is not just with Watson, but with the team. There was a team that no matter what we knew, no matter what we found out, said, we're in. We're going to do it. We're even going to pretend that we had a plan for if we need a massage, if we need
if he needs a soft tissue massage.
If he needs a soft tissue massage,
how are we going to handle that?
We're going to have either a therapist there that's approved through us or a monitor, as I kidded about earlier in the show, in there. And that's, to me, why I think there's not enough heat on the team itself, that there was a team out there that gave him the world, The Cleveland Browns have given them the world.
30.
And now then they're stuck with, they got to stand there and defend nonsensical comments. Why? Because they're in it too deep right now.
Well, but they knew what they were getting into, which is why they gave him the contract where he's basically losing $100,000, whatever it is, less than $1 million.
Yeah,
he's losing
$650,000 in that range. Yeah,
he's got the fine of $5 million, which is good, but. You nailed it on the team, and I hope they lose every game. I hope the people that made these decisions get fired, and I hope their fans don't come. As cold as that might sound, some of them might, some of them might not, but maybe this is the decision that turns it in the other favor. I don't know. But, it's not enough for me. It's better than what it was before, but I don't have to like any of it.
Next up, the Big Ten scored a major agreement with 3 networks, including Fox, to share media rights to the conference's football and basketball games. 7 years, more than $7 billion. The Big Ten will have an NFL-style schedule on fall Saturdays with 3 football games airing nationally on 3 different networks. Very exciting for the Big Ten and for viewers. Justin?
I love it. I love the windows. I mean, this is, people are giving Kevin Warren credit for kind of this idea, which he deserves a lot of credit of, and he's even said, I like the NFL model where you've got your noon game, then you've got maybe a national game, and then you've got primetime. You keep everybody. All of it's on different networks. All of them put their best foot forward. You're going to get the best of Fox. You're going to get the best of CBS. You're going to get the best of NBC in terms of what they can do for college. So I think this is absolutely spectacular. There's a streaming component of it, too. I know basketball fans are bitter that maybe some of their games are going to be on stream as opposed to over-the-air television, but that's the world we live in. Every decision now for college athletics is being made on what's best for football, and I think this is going to be absolutely spectacular. I think it's going to be great for everybody involved, especially the viewer and obviously the teams that are going to be getting about $100 million out of this deal.
I am on record. I'm a college football traditionalist. I hate these new mergers.
Me too, by the way.
But they're done.
Yes.
I don't
Nothing
like the fact that now the USC and UCLA are in the Big Ten. It makes no sense to me any more than Rutgers or Maryland, but it's there. In terms of a deal, it is, you're 100% right. It's an absolute home run. The one nagging concern I have is that, the primetime game, is it going to be Michigan and or Ohio State or Penn State every week? That's the concern a little bit. Okay, is that going to be spread around?
30 seconds.
Is the Big Ten up to really getting big time SEC-style exposure in terms of the depth of the conference, in terms of what the games are going to be like? But the money, there's this thing called trickle-down economics.
Yep.
I'm assuming you're hoping some of that money trickles down to you as Viking, or I should say Gophers sideline analyst.
Yep.
I got to believe there should be a raise in there for you. There's money for everybody. There should be money now for every non-revenue sport.
Enough said.
Even adding a few, don't you think?
Non-revenues should never be cut again.
Right.
And you should never worry about, if you have a coach, really in any sport, you should be able to pay that coach whatever he or she is worth, because the money is absolutely
Well, they're going to get paid
and
more
I agree.
than what they're worth.
Justin needs
probably.
a raise.
Yeah, I think we all do.
We could negotiate that.
Okay,
First Go for pregame show, the September 1st, 5:30 to 6, right here on Fox 9.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, there's Fox involved too. Maybe you can get some money from Fox.
We're
9.
involved in everything. That's why it's so
much
awesome to
more.
work here.
True.
We are so much more.
Much more.
Speaking of so much more, we're going to be at the fair too. The Great Minnesota Get Together starts in less than a week.
Are we doing the show from there?
Dozens of new foods. I'm going to keep reading. Drinks and some big grandstand acts. Even former Vikings Stephon Diggs tweeted this week, "It's the best fair in the world."
God.
No debate. So
I knew you'd
Stephon,
swoon.
I had to weave that in there. What I'm most looking forward to, just being at the booth and meeting people and stopping by your radio show. No, truly.
Well, you don't like people.
Really, just talking to people and giving hugs.
Here,
and Justin.
Well, here's the thing that's weird. I kid about this all the time that I don't really like people, and I kind of don't sometimes. Yet,
don't admit that.
Here's the contradiction. I love seeing people and meeting them at the state fair. I don't know. That spot, I've gotten accustomed to it.
Yep.
I've gotten into my rhythm on it. For many people, it is a tradition that they want to bond with you. I don't know why they do. I appreciate that they want to. Would have been great to see the Fox 9 people out there. We could have bonded with them, too.
We are out there.
Oh, wait.
It's not late night.
Oh, not late night? Oh,
But we are out there.
Oh, you're out there.
Well,
the station is, but we won't be out there. I'm not bitter about it. But what I'm saying is, we both love it. It's a pain in the butt to get there and all that.
Yep.
But I have learned to absolutely take in, breathe all of it
Justin?
in the entire state fair tradition.
I'm excited to eat before I get there in hopes that I don't eat when I get there every day, and then completely blowing that out like probably by day 2.
Yeah,
because that's the
hard to
danger of
stick
going
to.
out there a lot. But no, it's about the people. I'm very curious to see how the crowds are this year. I think last year the crowds were a little bit down still. People wondering what's it going to be like with COVID and everything. I think we're going to have a big year. Hopefully the weather's good. And yeah, please stop by and see us. The
Lori,
radio show's at Carousel Park.
You're going to stop by our radio booth, right, Lori?
On that Tuesday. Lori's coming by.
She's not speaking. She's just
Yeah,
laughing.
no, sorry, it wasn't mine.
Pretending
I
her
am. That
microphone's
first
out.
Tuesday, I'm going to see if I can be a guest on your show.
We're
I
gonna
don't
put you
know
on
if
the
your
spot.
producer
Oh,
says
yeah.
it's okay.
Yep, we'll make it work.
Just don't hug us.
Bring some food. Bring some food.
Wow, it's still August, and now I'm thinking Christmas.
Oh, my God.
I got that
Don't do
feeling.
it to us.
Singer Mariah Carey wants to be known as the Queen of Christmas. Time for the lightning round. The superstar is trying to trademark the title. She could then sell stuff under Queen of Christmas, like soap and stuff. I don't know. 2 other singers are fighting and saying they are the Queens of Christmas. Remember this song, 1994, but it's a #1 hit every year. Right, I don't know, when do we start playing it? The day after Halloween?
After the
Pretty
state
close.
fair.
After
After
the
the
state
state
fair
fair
for a lot
And
of
we
people.
know
Hasn't she
Mariah-
made enough money?
Here's the
And
thing.
we know
yeah.
Mariah Carey was the one that got away.
Yeah,
right,
but
Dan?
For
well,
Dan, yeah.
here's the thing. I mean, is there not something? I love her, but isn't there something kind of presumptuous
Not kind of, it is.
about having to say, that's maybe-"
Yes.
She has an awful lot of fame, an awful lot of acclaim.
Yep.
And I don't know, maybe there's a financial number that she's attaching to this copyright
Must
that
be.
is related to it. But it's not a good look.
I agree.
If I were with Mariah, and I'm not, I would
Oh,
say,
you're not.
Mariah, cease and desist. This is not good for your image.
Next up,
Not.
this weekend the Twins will welcome 3 new members to their Hall of Fame, including manager Ron Gardenhire. Gardy's been with the Twins organization for over 20 years, winning over 1,000 games and 6 division titles.
And he's
Justin?
Gardy. He's Gardy. I thought Lavelli Neal wrote a nice piece on him in the Star Tribune this week that kind of captured it. He was the guy that you could see in Little Canada or Roseville, right? That was just kind of hanging out, messing around with his kids, having a beer with the fans or whatever. He was part of the TK coaching tree, which are obviously great memories. And they had some very good teams. Obviously didn't get enough done in the postseason, but he's Gardy. I think this is well deserved.
Well, and Gladden, it's very deserved too.
Yes.
And I've told the story before. He was so mad at stuff I wrote. He once
challenged you.
challenged me to do infield practice before a game.
You didn't do it, though.
I didn't do it. I
You
was
should-
smart enough not to do
You should feel
it.
flattered that he read your
The other
stuff.
players were all
true.
kind of circling. They were loving it. But he's a character.
Yep.
Very important part of 2 World Series titles. And he stayed here and turned himself into a damn good broadcaster.
Next up, Minnesota is the 9th best place to live according to Wallet
What?
Hub.
Not high.
9th, Wisconsin 10th.
We're
We
slipping.
were 5th. Yeah, we are, because we were 5th and Wisconsin was 6th last year. They took into account affordability, education, quality of life. Massachusetts came in first, last
Really?
place. Mississippi, Dan.
Affordability for Massachusetts?
That does.
That maybe.
Surprises me a little bit. I'm not shocked Mississippi generally does finish last, but I guess we can't revel in that. If we're slipping to, was it 9th you said?
9th and 10th.
I'm
for
actually more
Minnesota,
offended.
Wisconsin.
The gap between us and Wisconsin should be larger. We're not one state better than Wisconsin. Wherever
think we're
we
several?
are.
Yeah.
Yes. And I know we have a lot of Wisconsin viewers. Apologies to you. We hear
Send the
from you a
letters
lot
to
when we talk
Guardsy, not
about
me.
Packer fans, but-
I like Wisconsin,
And finally,
Oh, do
especially
you?
the Dells.
Yeah.
a
near the
small,
Dells.
the Wisconsin Dells. A small study, very small, shows hugging can help women reduce
Small.
stress due to the release of oxytocin. Researchers at Cleveland Clinic found effective hugs run about 5 to 10 seconds, but sadly, they didn't find that those hugs helped men with mental health. And we should be clear, this is in romantic relationships. But I
Not
just
for
say
strangers?
Not for
hugs-
Just go up and hug strangers?
Well, you wouldn't hug a
At the state
stranger,
fair.
but I think if it's a friend or if it's
Why,
with
Lori? Why do you
consent-
always pick studies that demonize men? I don't understand that.
Not
What's
right.
the problem? Men
When's
don't
the last
respond
one
the
that
same
I
way.
said was against men.
Well,
it's not against men. It's interesting that they don't get the same deal out of it.
Because
Maybe-
we're always worried that the hug is going to be misconstrued. The hug
Exactly.
is very stressful for us.
Exactly it.
So it's the
we don't know if
opposite
it's going to
effect.
be. We feel like okay, if we receive a hug, we'll do it. But if we initiate the hug,
Not going to work.
not going to work. There's going to be all kinds of problems. Are you prepared to understand that contradiction?
So if you could go in if someone goes in for a hug, or if you go, maybe you could just be like bones it instead, or
seems kind of cold and
Yeah, but then you're
chilly
a
to
jerk.
me. But
we can't win.
no,
I'm sorry. Well, I'm sorry you don't get the benefits
hugs.
of hugging, and
You
you're
love
scared
hugging.
to
You're
hug.
you're a
I love
hugging fan.
hugs. I love shoulder taps.
You're
that
you're
kind
grabby.
of thing,
We've
so.
talked about
what's
it a lot.
the length of the
Very,
average
very
hug
grabby.
for you? How long
I
does it
said
have
less
to be?
than 3 seconds, though, because then it gets awkward.
Less than 3?
Enough said.
There's a rule right there.
But
See,
then
that's
if you
what adds to
pull
the
away
stress.
after 3 seconds, then the other person's going to feel like, wow.
Right,
Yeah.
but more than that
Doesn't
might be
really
like,
like me.
okay, then,
Yeah, this
Well-
is awkward. Very awkward.
That's why this is so complicated.
Give Lori a hug at the state fair.